wow. I love videos that tell a story, and I love people who have dedicated their lives to telling a story. And today, as I said, you have a beautiful, special guest who comes fresh out of Israel, who has dedicated his life to connecting you, me, others to Israel's story, to her people, to her history, to the land, and to what's currently happening in real time. So, Uri, thank you so much for being here today. So
Thank you for having me.
grateful.
It's so lovely to be here. Thank you.
Well, everything in the world has changed, not just in Israel, but everything in the world. The way that things were on October 6th will never be again.
That's right.
And we have to adjust. And it's hard to adjust when we don't know truth versus fiction, and fact versus non-fact, and how to pray. And so I have met many people that when they don't know what to do, they do nothing. And that's why I'm so glad that you are here, you are touring, you are speaking, you are doing interviews, you're educating, and you're helping. And so I just want you to share with the viewers today what's happening in real time. And then, of course, how did we get here? How can we help? What do we do now? I know that was a lot of questions, but I just want to let you go to kind of, build the foundation.
Well, I think your setup is correct, that the events of October 7th were so cataclysmic that they are what I call a paradigm-shifting event.
Yeah.
And nothing that we believed, all our assumptions of before October 7th are no longer relevant. We have to come up with new frameworks to understand reality. And what I'm doing on these on my speaking tours now is I'm traveling around the States. I'm engaging with a lot of different audiences to try to give them a framework to understand what's happening on the ground in order to filter a lot of the misinformation and disinformation and propaganda that is coming through the airwaves, and give them language and tools with which that they can stand up and speak and find their voice. Because I think you're right, that most people, even if they are intuitively understand that there's good and bad and Israel is inside of the good, it's very difficult for them to find that language. And so they go to a safe space, which is either say nothing or call for just a general peace.
Yes.
Which in this case actually works in the favor of Hamas.
That's correct.
And so it's very, very important to be able to speak out.
Yeah.
What I find that about this situation is that there's so much misinformation. And
Yes.
there are a lot of lies. I mean, everything that comes out of Hamas is propaganda, and that sometimes is echoed by the mainstream media, sometimes willingly or unwillingly. But there is a very difficult, it's very difficult to process this information. Of all the big lies, there's the big three, the genocide, colonialism, apartheid. Right? These are the big three.
Yeah.
And each and every one of them they're big lies.
Yes.
And it's really a copy-paste out of the Nazi, the Goebbels propaganda book.
Yes.
Tell a big lie, tell it often, people will start to believe it.
That's right.
The notion that Israel is perpetuating a genocide is preposterous.
It is.
The numbers don't add up, and those who are screaming about it said nothing when when Assad was murdering 500, 700,000 people from his own people, and 400,000 people were being killed in Yemen. Not to mention the further other wars of 1.5 million Muslims and Arabs that were killed between the war of Iran and Iraq back in the previous century. I mean, to blame Israel for perpetrating a genocide when the Hamas itself not only announces and declares and writes in its charter clearly that this is their intended goal, they then in October 7th went out and carried out a genocidal attack.
That was planned for a decade.
That was planned for years,
Yes.
and complicit with other countries and other actors in the region and the world, and they carried out this genocidal attack and already prepared the groundwork.
Yes.
The demonstrations against Israel and the calls of genocide began on October 8th, almost 2 weeks before Israel even began its counteroffensive.
Right.
Right. So these were pre-planned, premeditated slogans that were set up in place in order to vilify Israel in the eyes of the world.
Right.
the numbers don't add up, and it's very easy to confirm this.
The IDF has found documents, and they've found intel, and they've found evidence to support everything that you're saying.
Yeah.
And then some.
Exactly, and that's been shown to the world.
Yes.
And sometimes it's echoed, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
If it doesn't fit the narrative,
Right.
it won't make it to the newsroom,
Yeah.
which is often the problem. Another big lie is the claim or the accusation of Israel as a colonial state,
Oppressor.
as an oppressor, right? As an occupier.
Yeah.
Your audiences know, and you just have to read the Bible. Just skim through the Bible. Just
barely.
just
right.
a little bit. Just go through. So I mean, the notion that the children of Israel are somehow colonizing the land of Israel is absolutely preposterous.
It is.
It's not to say that there isn't a conflict, that there's not a dispute. There is, but to call that colonialism, to put that in the framework of the Western guilty conscience and the culture of now self-flagellation in the West is absolutely preposterous. And the last big lie is the notion of apartheid. You'd have to be in Israel for all of 5 minutes.
Right.
You land at the airport, step outside, look around.
Yeah.
It takes you 5 minutes to realize that's also a nonsensical claim.
It is.
Israel is made up of multiplicity of ethnicities
It is.
and nationalities and religions
And languages.
and 20% of the population that are Arab
Yeah.
and Muslim, with full civil rights, with
Yes.
more rights and liberties than any other Arab in the Middle East.
That's right.
Participation in parliament, in voting, in all walks of life, even serve in the military.
That's right.
And so to claim apartheid against Israel is, again, another attempt at vilification.
That's right.
And it's another rung in the ladder of anti-Semitism. Take whatever you despise the most or whatever opposite the value you hold up the most dear and blame it on the Jews.
That's right.
Which is what has been happening for thousands of years. And the only thing that's surprising is that we're still surprised.
Right. You're right. It's in there. It's in the book. It happened. It continues to happen. And the prophet said that it will happen until the very end of days. And so I think, Uri, what do we do? My frustration is the church, this could be our finest hour. We're the grafted in ones. Mm-hmm. Those of us that subscribe to the New Testament and that love the first covenant and see the full counsel of God. This is our hour to rise up and pray and stand and act and speak out, like Isaiah 62 says, to give God no peace until we see Jerusalem, the glory of the earth. And I feel that many in the body of Yeshua are not doing their job. So how position us? What can we do in this hour?
I think that there are two. I mean, there's a lot of things. Everybody can do whatever in their sphere of influence,
Correct.
Right? And we just talked about before the show about Esther and Mordechai and the story of Purim and the Book of Esther. Who knows if it's not for this time,
right.
You have arrived at royalty, and that can be your job. That can be your social status. That can be whatever place that you have arrived now. Who knows if not for this time you've been called. So step up.
Yeah.
Right. And it requires courage and it requires conviction, which is why I travel and try to give people the language and the abilities and the tools to actually speak about this. So I think that is number one, to speak out. To when you hear things that are obviously false, to call it out. Not everybody's entitled to their opinion, but not everybody's entitled to their own set of facts. Right?
That's right.
You have to call it out. So when people use the big three, those big lies, and call it out and have them stop, or ask questions.
Ask powerful questions.
Ask questions.
Yes.
You will never bring somebody from their certainty to your certainty. All you can do is from their certainty to bring them to uncertainty.
Yes.
And you do that by asking questions, because most people repeat slogans that are superficial.
Right.
Right?
Or what's trending.
Yes. They'll say whatever trend, whatever meme they saw that morning on social media. But if you ask them questions, so what do you mean? when you say genocide?
Yeah.
Do you know what genocide?
Right.
How you define it? What do you mean by apartheid? What do you ask them the questions to bring them to a point of uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
and then offer alternative or facts
Right.
to support yours. So, and then if you cast uncertainty in their conviction, you're already doing something good, because the rhetoric then lowers. The second thing, which I also ask you and your viewers to do, is that the Jewish community in North America, all over the world, but here specifically, are in shock,
Yeah.
are confused, and they're hurting.
Yeah.
Call your Jewish neighbors. Call your Jewish friends, your colleagues, your friends from college.
Yes.
Ask them how they're doing. And ask them, but really ask them how they are. They're waiting for that phone call.
Yeah.
They really are. Tell them that you have their back.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised how deeply moving that will be for them, because most Jews now in North America are experiencing a reality they only heard stories about from their grandparents, from Germany in the 1930s and Poland.
Yeah.
And it's shocking that we are now going through what we thought
we'd never go through again.
Yeah, exactly. We never go through that again.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Here we are.
And here we are, where it's now trendy. It's now okay to hate Jews again.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're waiting for that phone call. They're waiting for that phone call to ask them how they're doing, to tell them that you're in their corner. And so those are the two things that I would say are important to do.
You know, Uri, we celebrate the feasts. My husband is Jewish. We've been to Israel dozens of times. We went to Yad Vashem and did 2 courses. And you know, the first course, I thought, I don't think anti-Semitism exists like this. But I said, you know what? I'm going to stay and I'm going to listen and I'm going to learn. And I discovered through evidence that it does exist. But even when I went through the course, Uri, it just seemed to me like that was in Europe. It wasn't here.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last 4 years, the escalation.
Yeah.
I think hate crimes against Jews are up like 800%.
Hundreds of percent.
It's ridiculous. And it is shocking, because you think, why would you hate someone just because of their nationality, their culture, their birthright?
That's right.
So we have to invite people like you to speak. We have to go to your website and learn. We have to have these conversations because it's never the time to pretend something doesn't exist.
Yeah. So on my website, I have a tab with resources, and there are many books that you can buy that I feature there that will give you a whole understanding from different angles.
Yes.
And one of the best ones about anti-Semitism is a small booklet that's called "Why the Jews."
Yeah.
Right? And we have been lulled into a belief that anti-Semitism is a thing of the past. But the truth is, it never really went away.
Right.
It never really went away because it is almost part of Western civilization as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. The notion that the Jews have always been positioned as a civilization other from the moment they show up on the stage of history.
Yeah.
Because what is God's message or the vehicle, right? The Jewish people, the tribes of Israel are the vehicle that God has chosen to bring His word and bring this message of ethical monotheism into the world. And the Jews show up on the stage of history and they look around and look at the pagan world around them and they say, "You're wrong.
Yeah.
Your gods are false.
That's right.
And you're morally corrupt." And you know who doesn't like to hear the morally corrupt?
The morally corrupt. I was going to say the immoral, but the
That's
morally
right.
corrupt. They don't want to hear
Exactly.
that.
And nobody wants to hear that.
No.
Right? So on the moment they show up on the world stage, they're hated for their faith and their association with Hashem, with God.
Yeah.
And then they reject the pagan world. They reject the Hellenistic, the first global culture. They reject Hellenism. They reject the Roman culture.
Yes.
The Romans looked at the Jews and thought they were immoral.
Yes.
Right? The Jewish people, and then through the church, these ideas spread all over the world. But the notion that we have to help the weak, the impoverished, the widowed, the orphaned, these are radical ideas. In the ancient world, they copy paste. They look at the natural world.
Yeah.
right? And you see the lion hunting the zebra, the powerful hunting the powerless. And for them, this is how the world is supposed to work.
Yes.
And here come these people who are saying, no, if you have power, your responsibility is to help those that are weaker than you.
That's right.
Right? And it is a complete opposite way of looking at the world, putting human life, that all humans, that all men and women are created in the image of God.
Yes.
That is in our book, that is in our Bible. This is one of the great gifts the Jews gave to the world, the idea of humanism, putting
Yes.
humans in the center. Opposite, it's an anathema to all what they believed. And the Romans looked at the Jews and thought they were immoral for not exercising their power.
Yeah.
Right? Then with the rise of Christianity and the Catholic Church, the Orthodox and the Catholic Church, the Jews also reject that. And so they are placed in a lower status on purpose.
Yes.
To prove this is replacement theology, the humiliation and oppression of the Jews as a way to prove that the church is superior. And of course, as you mentioned before, if you read Scripture, for those of you who read Scripture, you understand that that's not the case. There's a graft, there's roots, and there's a tree, and there's a grafted in, and there's a continuation, not a replacement.
That's right.
And but this continues. So the Jew has always been the opposite of whatever a society holds dear. In the communist world, the Jew is the capitalist.
Yes.
In a capitalist world, the Jew is the communist. Right? In a religious world, the Jew is the devil. In the world of nation states, right now, national pride, patriotism, the Jew is the usurper, the fifth column, the one with dual loyalties. In a world where racial purity is the most important thing, the Jew is the ultimate impure, so the subhuman species that is the impure of the Aryan race. And moving forward, today in this world, in a world after World War II became politically incorrect. And so all the hatred towards Jews was directed to the Jewish state.
Yes.
Right? And not to the Jewish people. And so in a world that human rights are the most important thing, now the Jewish state is the worst violator of human rights. There are more condemnations against Israel in the UN than the rest of the world combined, which is ludicrous.
Yes.
And now this comes into an explosion, and again, the veneer of civility has been ripped off. In modern day America, the teaching, the separation of people, the human interaction to powerful and powerless, it goes back to those pagan roots.
Yeah.
Right? There is the class of the oppressor and the class of the victim. The Jews have been placed with the oppressors, right? Because they seemingly look white. Okay? Of course, again, you have to be in Israel for 5 minutes to understand the fallacy.
That's not the
of
case.
these things.
Yes, correct.
But when the Jews are placed with the oppressor, and the oppressor can do no right, and the victim can do no wrong, then when October 7th happens, there's an explosion. So today in America, the Jews, again, the opposite of whatever society holds dear. For the extreme right, for the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists, the Jew is a engine of replacement. Right? The Jews won't replace us. They think the Jews want to replace them. For the radical left, for the progressive left today, the Jew is an uber white, right? Using their seemingly their privileges to manipulate the system and gain traction because they somehow control everything, like the banks and the media, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's a bi-pronged. No matter, again, tell me what you value the most, and I'll be able to identify your brand of anti-Semitism. It never went away. It's with us always.
It is. But it's our job, and that's why I'm so happy you're here today. I'm so happy that in the midst of not being able to do what you normally do and are gifted to do with touring and educating and exposing people to the land and connecting them there, you're coming here to help us.
Yeah.
And the Jews have always been and will always be a sign, miracle, and wonder. And that's not going away. And replacement theory, I know many listening, you've struggled with that. And it is one of the most dangerous doctrines that you can embrace right now. And I say that to you with the greatest respect and in the deepest love. But, you know, as you said, the Jews have made Hesed. That is their job. And they show love and kindness. Even when the earthquake happened in Haiti, and we have an orphanage in Haiti to how to work there, the The Israelites were the first ones there.
That's right.
And they're
within 10 days, there was already a field hospital on the
they
ground.
were already there. And I was in shock, but then I wasn't, because I thought that is how quickly they move to help hurting
That's
humanity.
true in Haiti, it's true in Turkey, even in Syria, in countries where Israel doesn't have diplomatic relations with, where there's a natural disaster, Israeli aid is usually first on the ground.
Yes. Well, Uri, I want you to come back. I know you're going to be here in May. You'll be available to talk. If any of you would like to bring Uri in to speak to your group, to your church, to your organization, he has a wealth of knowledge. We've only skimmed the surface today. I encourage you, go to his website. It's right here on the screen. Reach out to him, pray for him, invest in him so that he can continue to help and lift the arms. He's being an Aaron and he's being an Ur to a very important message right now. And pray for Israel, pray for the IDF, pray for the Prime Minister, pray for the government, and pray that we will see God move supernaturally. I'm Jennifer Mallon, and I'm inviting you to come home, make Aliyah.